On the most recent Koine Corner, titled The One Who Believes, we looked at the verb pisteuo and we looked at the phrase ho pisteuon, the one who believes, in John chapter 3. If you haven't seen that yet, I would encourage you to pause, go take a look at that one, and then come back to this one. Today I want to take a look at the use of the verb pisteuo, I believe, that sort of stands alone. It's unlike all the others. It's in Romans chapter 14, verse 2, but let's start out with verse 1 to set the context. Both the readings in the English today are from the ESV. Verse 1 says, "As for the one who is weak in faith, welcome him, but not to quarrel over opinions." The first implication here is that not all faith is equal, right? Welcome in people who are weak in faith, but he says not for the purpose of remediation. That's not your job. You're not welcoming them in so that you can coach them up. Just welcome them in. Don't quarrel over opinions. You may do things differently. That being said, get a load of verse 2. One person believes he may eat anything, while the weak person eats only vegetables. I have to confess, I've always taken a little guilty pleasure in this verse. I just get a kick out of it. But let's take a look at the whole thing. It's very interesting. Hos men pistue phagein panta. Let's jump down to the second part. Hode asthenon lakana esthie. First thing I want us to look at is the second word in each Greek phrase. We have amen in the first line and a de in the second. Amen de construction always fascinates me because men de constructions are making this statement. On the one hand, this, but on the other hand, that. So we know by the use of the men de construction, we're getting a contrast, we're getting a comparison of two things that are not the same. Okay, so let's look at the first one. Hos, one person. Pistue, believes. This is a present active indicative third person singular form of pisteuo. One person believes. On the one hand, one person believes. Phagein, this is an infinitive, to eat, literally believes to eat, panta, anything, everything. So there's a person, the quality of whose faith is such, the quality of it, the degree of it, the maturity of it is such that he'll eat anything. He or she does not fuss or fret about what he is about to consume. So this tells us something about that faith. The nature of that believing, the result of that believing is that this person feels free to eat anything. Okay? This is interesting in first century Christianity because a lot of, it comes out of Judaism and there's a concern for unclean eating. There's also a concern for food sacrificed to idols. And in the ancient world, if you went to a market and bought meat, there's a very high likelihood that when that animal was dispatched, there was, if not a full-blown sacrifice to some deity, there was some prayer uttered to some deity as a part of dispatching that animal. So people had a fear that they're going to go and inadvertently become an idol worshiper by buying meat at the market. When you go to the grocery store, how do you know that the person who dispatched that chicken or that cow or that pig or that lamb or that fish, even for that matter, didn't say some prayer to some deity in which you don't believe before he or she did that? You don't, do you? So that was a concern back then. But here we're told, on the one hand, one person believes to the point that they eat anything. They don't worry about it. They don't have meat fear. They're not concerned about that. Now we get to the second part. Hode asthenon, but on the other hand, the weak one, the one who is weak, esthia, eats lakana, vegetables. So there's a faith that is of such a degree or quality or maturity that it unlocks the freedom to eat anything on the one hand, but on the other hand, someone who is described as the one who is weak just eats vegetables for meat fear, for fear that if I eat that and I haven't been there and seen it processed, I might inadvertently be an idol worshiper. I might eat something that wasn't prepared according to the proper procedure so that it's kosher. I might wind up eating something that is ritually unclean or is unclean because it's on the list of things that are unclean. I can't take the risk, so I'm just going to have the broccoli. Right? See the difference in the two? It's a pretty fascinating thing. The implication here is that a strong, deep, mature, high-quality faith unlocks a person from fear to the point where you can just, whatever's on the table, you can eat it and not have meat fear. But someone who is weak, and remember verse 1 specifically said weak in faith, that's the context in which we're looking. Someone who is weak in the faith says, I just can't risk it. I just can't risk it. I want to look at another verse that sort of plays out this concept for us about deep, mature, rich faith dismissing fear, and less than that, sort of keeping you stuck in fear. It's in Acts chapter 9, it's verse 26, and it says, and when he had come to Jerusalem, the he is Saul of Tarsus, later called Paul, he attempted to join the disciples, and they were all afraid of him, for they did not believe that he was a disciple. And that phrase is, me pistuantes hoti estin mathetes. Me pistuantes, while not believing hoti, that, estin, he is, mathetes, a disciple. So they were all afraid. Why? Because they didn't believe his claim that he's a disciple. They don't fully accept or trust that he says, I'm no longer a persecutor of the church. I'm no longer hunting Christians. In fact, I am a Christian. I am a disciple. But because they couldn't believe it, they can't take the risk of welcoming a wolf into the fold. See the powerful implication here? Belief in full degree, in full quality, in maturity, frees you from fear. You can act without fear. But if there are doubts, if you're unsure, if your faith is, quote, weak, you're still going to be stuck in fear. And when someone comes and says, I'm not the same person that I was, you won't be able to accept it. Not so sure about that guy. I heard some bad things about that guy. I remember when. I can't trust for you to come in here. But remember, all the way back to Romans 14:1, there's when someone shows up who's weak in the faith, welcome them in. Not to quarrel, not to remediate their beliefs, but in the maturity of your faith, you should be free to say, he or she doesn't need to be where I'm at or have perfect, mature faith. They don't even have to eat the burger. They can stick to the vegetables if they need to. But that's the difference between a high-quality, mature, developed faith that sets you free and a weak faith that keeps you stuck in fear and may leave you stuck at the vegetable platter. Hope that was interesting for you. If it was, please let me know in the comments. Tell a friend if you're enjoying the channel. And until next time, Charis Kairene Humin, grace and peace to you.